Imagine dedicating 7 years of your life to someone, traveling across countries for them, working day and night, trusting them like family. And then one day, you're lying in a hospital bed, your legs shattered, your bank account nearly empty, and you realize the person you trusted most has been stealing from you the entire time. That's the moment I decided something. If he was going to destroy my life, I was going to destroy his. And if you've ever dreamed about seeing someone finally get the karma they deserve, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and stick around. Because today's story isn't just about revenge. It's about patience, betrayal, and watching someone lose everything they built. To understand how everything fell apart, you need to go back to 2008. I had just finished studying computer technology. Back then, everyone kept repeating the same phrase. Tech is the future. Schools promoted it. Companies promoted it. Some businesses even came directly to our campus offering scholarships if we promised to work for them after graduating. At the time, it felt like the world was opening up. Then the financial crisis hit. And those promises? They disappeared overnight. The companies stopped hiring. The scholarships vanished. And suddenly my career of the future turned into unemployment. I couldn't afford college anymore. So instead, I did what a lot of people did during that time. I took whatever job I could find. My 20s became a cycle. Work a low-paying job, save a little money, get laid off, then watch those savings slowly drain while searching for the next miserable job that barely paid rent. Years passed like that. Meanwhile, technology kept evolving. New systems, new certifications, new requirements, and every year I fell further behind. By the time I reached my late 20s, I felt like I was drowning. That's when I decided something drastic. I needed a completely different career, something practical, something hands-on. So I chose industrial fabrication and metalwork. And strangely enough, exactly 1 week after I made that decision, a government program appeared offering free training in that exact field. It felt like fate. I took the course, finished it, and within days, I landed a job doing field fabrication work. That's when I met the man who would later become the villain of this story. Let's call him Rat Boss, or R&B. R&B ran a small field fabrication company, just 6 workers. But the job was exciting. We traveled across Europe working on industrial sites, factories, infrastructure projects, large installations that needed specialized metalwork done on location. R&B promised to teach me real field work, not classroom theory, the real thing. And honestly, the first 6 years were incredible. The work was brutal. 12-hour days, sometimes 7 days a week. Sometimes we stayed abroad for over a month. But there was something special about that life. Traveling. Working with your crew. Solving problems together. At first we were strangers, but eventually we became something closer to family. And R&B, back then he seemed like the kind of boss people dream about. I remember one moment that stuck with me. His business ran into an emergency expense, and suddenly his account was nearly empty. Payroll was due in 2 weeks. Most bosses would have said, "Hey guys, payments will be late," but not him. He took out a high-interest loan just to make sure we got paid on time. That kind of loyalty earns trust. And I trusted him completely. For 6 years. Until year 7. That's when things started to change. Most of the original crew had left. They missed their families. Traveling constantly gets old after a while. R&B also wanted to stay closer to home. So he promoted me to foreman. He would stay local and search for contracts while I ran the crew in the field. Whenever I needed workers, he'd interview people and send them my way. At first it worked fine, but the new hires weren't like the old team. They were temporary, guys chasing quick money, or workers looking for experience before leaving for better jobs. Then the pandemic happened, and everything got worse. Suddenly nobody decent wanted to work abroad anymore. So the workers R&B sent me were different. Drunks, troublemakers, people with nothing to lose, people who didn't care about the job. As foreman, I still had to make sure the projects finished. No matter how dysfunctional the crew was, I worked harder than ever. But outside of work, there were constant problems. Fights, drunken behavior, discipline issues. And then something else started happening. Payments became late, travel reimbursements stopped appearing, and the accounting numbers didn't look right. At first I tried to ignore it, but eventually everything exploded. One night at 3 a.m., my phone rang. The client was calling. One of my workers had been arrested, drunk, causing a public disturbance. He had no ID on him, only his workplace card, which meant the police contacted the client, and the client called me. So at 3 in the morning, I had to get dressed, drive to the station, and deal with the situation like a babysitter for grown adults. It was humiliating. That was the breaking point. When I returned home, I called R&B and demanded we talk, face to face. I told him I was done dealing with disasters and that we needed to settle accounts, because by that point, he owed me almost a year of travel expenses. And when you travel thousands of miles every month, that's a lot of money. R&B apologized. Sort of. He blamed his wife. She co-ran the business, and apparently they were arguing about finances. He asked for time. Just a little more time. Then he asked for another favor. Work locally with him for a few months. Minimum wage. Just until he rebuilt a stable crew. Looking back now, I should have walked away. But we had known each other for 7 years, so I agreed. On one condition. I needed half of the money he owed me by the end of September. I had construction scheduled on my house and needed that cash. R&B smiled and said, "Of course, no problem." Months passed. I worked locally. Minimum wage. Even that arrived late sometimes. By early September, I confronted him again. "Don't worry," he said. "The money's ready." But when we said goodbye that day, he gave me a smile. A fake one. You know the kind that instantly makes your stomach drop. That weekend, he sent me a message. He had found a new crew and was traveling abroad to meet a client, the moment I read it. Alarm bells started ringing in my head. He wasn't going to pay me. He was going to avoid me until the deadline passed. That's when I decided something. If the money didn't arrive on time, I would resign. 30-day notice. End of story. But fate had other plans. About a week before the payment date, I slipped on a ramp at work and destroyed my ankle. Not a sprain. Not a minor injury. Completely shattered. Emergency surgery. 2 weeks in the hospital. 6 months before I could properly walk again. And while I lay there in that hospital bed, guess what never arrived? The money, not even my regular wage. While I was hospitalized, the construction on my house finished. My mother had access to my accounts for emergencies, so she paid the contractors using my savings. When I finally checked my bank balance, it was almost empty. But there was one thing I was supposed to receive. In my country, after the first month of sick leave, the government sends payments through the employer. R&B just had to forward them to me. He never did. That's when everything snapped. There I was. Broken ankle. No income. Almost broke. Forced to sell an investment I'd built for years just to survive. And the man I trusted had abandoned me. That's when revenge stopped being a thought and became a plan. As foreman, I handled a lot of paperwork, purchases, budgets, contracts, and I kept copies of everything. So when I could finally move again, still limping, still on painkillers, I started visiting government offices, labor inspectors, financial regulators, anyone who might investigate him. I handed over everything, every violation, every suspicious payment, every illegal practice. The labor inspectorate was the biggest one. The caseworker flipped through the documents slowly. Her eyes widened. Then she muttered something under her breath. My God. This man broke half the labor laws in this country. The investigation began, and when the government moved, it hit him like a meteor. His bank accounts were frozen. His business license suspended. He was banned from traveling abroad. He had to dismiss his workers and pay severance he couldn't afford. Soon after, he filed for bankruptcy. The house he had spent 7 years building, his dream home, he had to sell it to pay fines. Now he's stuck back in his tiny apartment with his family, waiting for legal cases to finish. And when the government hammer finally fell, my phone rang. It was R&B. He was furious, shouting, demanding to know how I could do this to him. I listened quietly. Then I told him exactly how. After 7 years of loyalty, he lied to me. He abandoned me when I was injured. He kept money that wasn't his. And now, everything that happened to him was the result of his own choices. Then I told him something else. From now on, speak to me only through the legal offices. And I hung up. During the bankruptcy process, I filed my claim. After the fines were paid, I received exactly one thing: 1 month of sick leave. Nothing more. No travel expenses. No compensation. But honestly, that didn't matter anymore, because while I survived, he lost everything. Not an eye for an eye, the whole face for an eye. Today I'm standing again, both physically and in life. And Rat Boss? He's still trying to crawl back up from the dirt. If this story gave you chills, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments, what's the most satisfying revenge story you've ever heard? And don't worry, we've got many more stories like this coming soon.